casually explained Billionaires.
Now, the difference between an average person and a billionaire is essentially zero. Unfortunately, about 9 of them. Nevertheless, if you're a regular person, you walk around the same streets as both the riff, the raff, and professionals all the same. You probably know people who still live at home, friends slumming it with roommates, couples sharing a 2-bedroom, and high earners with a single-family home, a dog, 2 kids, and the white picket fence, giving you a decent perspective of life for the average person. But when you're so rich that money basically doesn't matter, everything changes completely. One unavoidable characteristic of becoming a billionaire is that you end up in such an isolated social circle that you often cease to relate to the common person, and your life becomes unrecognizable. For this reason, billionaires actually have more in common.
I mean, he's probably going to talk about this. This is more of a comedy video, but I do want to bring it up. There's a book that I talked about on stream called As Gods Among Us, A History of the Rich in the West. And it talks about the mega rich in different eras of time. And basically what it said was, in previous eras, a wealthy person in an area would have an unspoken social contract, which is that they are making more money than everyone else, but they are returning some of that to the area they live in terms of like beautification. They're building libraries. They're donating to schools. It's going back in, and it's not because they're fucking more altruistic. It was because they wanted to live in not a shithole. I'll give you an example. The richest person in America in like the FDR times was Getty, I believe. John Paul Getty. He was the richest person in America. And he built Getty museums and Getty libraries and had paid higher taxes. And it was all part of this thing where Getty Images, right? Yeah, okay. So that guy had a connection to his work because he, as rich as he was and out of touch as he was, he felt like he was an American. He felt an obligation to the city he lived in and the country he lived in because he wanted it to be good. What this book pointed out is, over the past few decades, the invention of luxury private jet travel and international banking has made it so the super rich no longer see themselves as a citizen of one country or one city. They see themselves as part of a global elite that can country hop with ease, and they don't care about the place that they live specifically. They can go anywhere. And so they no longer feel any obligation to invest in the area they live to make it better. If the place they're in sucks, they just move. For example, a ton of millionaires and billionaires are fleeing the UK right now. They've sucked everything they can out of the UK. The UK is in a collapsing state, and they're just leaving. They're not going to stick around and pay higher taxes or try to fix it. They're just going to leave. That is the dangerous spot we find ourselves in with the new era, where they can no longer be tied to one location. I'm sure the video might mention something adjacent to that, but I wanted to bring it up because the book was very interesting to me.
With the homeless than they do with most people. Doesn't pay taxes, undiagnosed mental illness, on the kind of drugs you don't even know how to get, and never even heard of the Epstein files. Now, it's natural to look at your life where you work 40 hours a week for just enough to scrape by and think, how does someone even get to be a billionaire in the first place? It's really pretty simple. At some point or another, we've all had the genius thought, what if 1 million people just gave me $1? It would barely inconvenience them, but then I would have $1 million. While most of us stop at this fantasy, impressed by our own raw ingenuity, some people throughout history have gone further, extrapolated on this scheme, and invented what is known today as a business. As an example, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph thought, what if you give me $16 every month and I mail you Shrek 2 on DVD?
That's a good business.
Easy $6.5 billion. Elon Musk said, what if you give me $8,000 and I pretend to give you a self-driving car every year for the next decade? Richest man on earth. Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay, also worth mentioning, Elon Musk got his $30 billion pay package. It happened. The reason they gave it to him is so embarrassing, bro. They awarded him $30 billion of shares to energize and focus him. Elon Musk is the only person in the world who has developed a job where he does bad to get paid more. Can you guys guess what Tesla's profit was last year? Don't Google it. Guess it. What do you think Tesla's overall profit was in 2024? $7 billion. And this is one of their better years. 2023 was slightly higher, but before that, it was way down. If you add up all of Tesla's profit ever, it's around this. That means all the money Tesla has ever made is going in to Elon Musk's pay package now. And as they approach, I mean, they just had the result. And I did a presentation on Tesla that did pretty well. And in that presentation, I talked about how Tesla sales are down in every country except the UK. Well, I just want to bring up quick update from today that I was reading. Even the UK is fucked, dude. 60% plummet while BYD is thriving. To look at that and be like, oh, the problem is we're not paying the world's richest man enough. We need to give him all the money we've ever made to motivate him to turn this company around when he's the fucking problem. It's crazy. It's absurd. It's loco.
And I pretend to give you a self-driving car every year for the next decade. Richest man on earth. Mark Zuckerberg said, what if I give you an app that collects all of your personal information in a giant database that I own, and you give me a heat lamp and a bowl of grasshoppers? To really drive home how much wealth billionaires have, when someone says they're a billionaire, they're one of only 800 people in the United States. In contrast, if someone says they're a millionaire, it means they have a house. Well, politically, it's commonplace for progressives to hate billionaires
especially
because
in California,
they epitomize
bro. If someone in California says they're a millionaire, you own a shack. Good for you.
late-stage capitalism. I don't make fun of billionaires because I have an ideological bone to pick. I make fun of them because they're really fucking weird. Recently, Peter Thiel, a tech billionaire and right-wing ideas guy, appeared on a podcast and was asked if he thought the human race should survive. He then stammered over the question for 15 seconds before reluctantly answering with the classic, yes, but. Now, I'm no expert in media training, but as I frequently...
Wait, I said the same thing. Wait, that's exactly what I said live. I said the media training joke. That's what I said. I said, like, I'm not a media training expert, but if someone says, are you the Antichrist? Just say no. Just open with no. Don't go, Don't, don't say what we do. Just say no. It's very simple.
Really tell Putin, Hamas, and Benjamin Netanyahu on our weekly Zoom meetings, the correct answer to human rights questions is always to say yes right away, and only reveal later that you had your fingers crossed out of frame.
Yep.
Billionaires like Thiel are almost alarmingly out of touch with how to communicate with the general public, because even though he can understand a regular person's life conceptually, he can't relate to them on a personal level. For example, I get really hot at night when I go to bed, so I like to turn the temperature way down. Whereas Thiel prefers to sleep in a deep freezer, he lays down like a sarcophagus. Now, the good news is that not all billionaires base their whole personality on World of Warcraft expansions and name their company after the magic rock Sauron used to corrupt weak minds and manipulate their will.
I was reading an interview with Peter Thiel where they ask him about Lord of the Rings and his eyes light up. And then he starts talking about elves in Lord of the Rings and how it's crazy. How ever since he saw the movie, he's been obsessed with the fact that human beings could be more like elves. We could live forever and and it's just like, it just makes you fully realize that these people are just the Redditor, you know. It's just that they're not magically, this guy is a fucking super nerd.
The magic rock Sauron used to corrupt weak minds and manipulate their will. Warren Buffett, for example, has not only pledged all of his wealth to charity after he dies, but he also still lives a very humble life in his house in Omaha that he bought in 1958 using the change he picked up off the ground. Nevertheless, most billionaires don't do much to shake off the public image that their whole existence is just about lording over their minimum wage warehouse workers as they Zillow the next 2,000 hectares of farmland to buy, sip their cognac, and mutter to their Siamese cat what pleasure it brings them to see the
real thing they buy is Hawaiian land. Every billionaire owns like a Hawaiian island now. I'm surprised there's any left. Like every one of those little islands around Hawaii is owned by a billionaire now. And Zuckerberg adds a new 200,000 acres every year.
Peasants toiling for their coin. But this isn't how billionaires run companies. This is how Mr. Beast comes up with video ideas. The ethical question of should there be billionaires at all is one of the most hot button issues around right now because wealth inequality has been steadily increasing decade over decade, and many people believe that billionaires don't pay their fair share. This is of course ridiculous, as billionaires get divorced all the time. With that said, it is a common belief that if the government were to confiscate...
I will say, the greatest redistribution of Jeff Bezos' wealth came from his massive divorce, where he lost half, basically. What if we make it so every broke person gets to marry a billionaire, but then have to get divorced? And so we just keep splitting it that way. By the way, if you're broke and you marry Bezos and get divorced and you become a billionaire, you then have to get married to someone else who's going to break your heart. Just want you to understand that it's a two-way street. It's going to keep going till it's divided. Legalize billionaire polygamy. Yeah, exactly. We're going to make it legal for billionaires to have multiple wives or husbands if it's Oprah. Wait, who was asking me this? Aiden was asking me that. Maybe it's a slime question, but Aiden asked me in person. He said, how much would you have to get paid to boogie down with Oprah? Is what he said. I don't know the answer to that question. He said, would you do it for $100,000? And I said, I'd pay so much more. I said, I mean, I could go way higher. No, I don't know. I don't know what it would take. I don't know. I mean, there is a number. I'm not going to pretend like it's like, oh, I have true love with my wife. I would never do it because I think I could easily tell Ari, like, I'm not in love with Oprah, babe. We could just get $1 billion, and she'd be fine with it. She'd be fine with it. I literally don't think my wife would care if Oprah's going to offer. It's so out there that I think it would be.
Skate everyone's personal wealth above 999 million, this would lead to a dramatic improvement in the standard of living for the average person. Problem is, even if you were to yoink every stock, bond, and square inch of real estate a billionaire owns, liquidate all of it to straight cash while somehow getting market value, in the US you would get about $6.22 trillion, which would cover 11 months of government spending, or every person in the country would get a one-time payment of around $18,000.
How about that?
While this is nothing to scoff at, if you're one of the people who says we should eat the rich, it's important to consider that the average inheritance in the US is $46,000, meaning you would make more money if you ate just one of your parents. Now, because they can't yet buy more of it, billionaires are experts at managing their time. While flying private is out of reach for most of us, there are other tips you can copy from billionaires to save time in your own life. For example, when I make a new account on a website, I save time by letting Chrome auto-generate an encrypted password. I got this idea from Elon Musk, who uses the same technique to name his children. When you basically reach level 99 in capitalism, you might ask yourself, what do I do now? Not to worry, once you've reached the level cap, there's still plenty of side quests for you to do. While most regular people spend their time playing video games, doing arts and crafts, or playing a sport.
I have talked about this. I called it the Jay-Z rule, but I feel like Jay-Z is out of favor, whether or not he went to a Diddy party. But I call it the Jay-Z rule. And the idea was you cap wealth at around Jay-Z's net worth, which is, maybe $1 billion around then. The idea is like Jay-Z he's married to Beyonce. He's got a private jet. He's got success in his field. Like all the motivation for money is there. But then you get a ticket saying you won and you're good. Here's the thing, that sort of soft happens when you have scaling tax rates. So if every dollar over $1 billion is taxed at like 95%, the incentive becomes, and this is what happened when we had high tax rates, is you just spend more money on the company. You just reinvest in the company or you pay higher salaries. They just didn't want to give the money up in taxes, so they used it instead of hoarding it, which works. It just worked. I mean, it creates the right incentive. Or you get a bigger family. Yeah, whatever. So I do think that have you considered the trickling? They put it back into the economy. Yeah, exactly.
Billionaires can choose more exotic things like getting bullied on Twitter, criticizing the Chinese government exactly one time, paying pro athletes to make you feel talented, leaving the planet in search of any novelty that will make the emptiness go away, paying to boost your Path of Exile account, then streaming it to prove to anyone who doubted your multidisciplinary genius that they...
It is embarrassing that a billionaire did that when you really think about it. I know it's Elon Musk, so he's a specific thing that we make fun of. But now that I'm thinking about just like a general person who's a billionaire paying money to pretend to be good at a game they're not good at. I don't know. It's like if Jeff Bezos wanted us to think he's good at Peak. So he like streamed himself beating it. When we found out it was someone else playing. It's just fun. It's just a funny thing that it happened. It's just a really funny thing that it happened.
They were in fact correct, exploring the bottom of the ocean to uncover its lost secrets, and of course exploring the bottom of the ocean and then dying.
TBH, you would buy a Challenger League account if you could get away with it. I could get away with it, and I didn't do it. Buying a Challenger League account would be the most embarrassing thing of all time. I would just queue up and get destroyed over and over again. It would just be me losing. The only people that make money off buying accounts are people that think they're better than they are. And then they get there and they realize how embarrassing it is, how bad they are. It's people who think they're stuck in ELO hell. Now, I guess it's a little bit different because I am a Challenger level Fizz, so I would immediately adapt and start crushing. It's not the same for me. Like, I am an ELO hell, and I am actually an incredible Fizz player. And if I bought a Challenger account, I would immediately be welcomed into the group. Paying for video games is embarrassing no matter how you look at it. Games aren't important. Okay, dude, that applies to movies, music, poems, sonnets, art. What a stupid fucking take. Anything other than spending money on growing crops for yourself is... You're watching a Twitch streamer right now. The beauty of life is that some things don't have to be important in a nebulous way to be worth your time. I just think the beauty of a skill-based game is putting time in and slowly getting better at it and seeing your improvement. But the idea that you care more about how you're perceived than that journey, and you skip the line by buying an account is deeply embarrassing, because it reveals about you that you're so insecure that you want people to think you're better than you are. What I'm saying is, we know that already, people would have unironically loved Elon playing newbie Path of Exile. They would have been so impressed that this billionaire is trying to learn the game. He's not very good, but he's learning the game in his spare time. They would have really applauded him. Even if he was bad, they would have been like, this is fucking cool. We get it. You're busy. The fact that he needed people to think he was one of the world's best is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And also you had to reach out to a Chinese gold farmer. It's just embarrassing, dude. It's embarrassing. It's cringy. It says something about you.
Instantly. In reality, when you're worth even hundreds of millions of dollars, an ultimately rookie amount, you can pretty much have anything you want. Penthouses, luxury cars, private chef, private plane, giant house, and another giant house in a poor country that kind of...
I'm not at this level of wealth. I'm just not, but that is the one thing. That is my aspiration to be richer, is a private chef. My dream is to have healthy food at all times. I can never balance health, food, and cost. And I can't do it. It's my hardest thing. No, I don't Uber Eats or Grubhub. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's too wasteful. So what I do now is I buy pre-made meals, the ones you heat up. And again, Ari does cook, but she's not my fucking chef. I don't ever expect her to cook. I never ask. It's like sometimes she wants to cook and she'll make something, but I never asked for it, and I plan for if she doesn't want to do it. So whenever I am responsible for myself, I just fucking heat up a meal, and it's fine. They're decently okay, but it's my dream. If I really lock in and wanted to grind for money, it would be for that reason, to be able to eat like a delicious, healthy meal all the time. I think that'd be so sick. Just cook yourself, dude. It's not hard. Okay, I'll counterpoint this. I think cooking for yourself is kind of low-key hard. Not that it's like difficult, like you couldn't do it, but doing it consistently week in, week out, I think it's hard. I think it's hard, and it requires cleaning and prep and shopping and time. And it requires a real investment. And I don't think it's easy. And I think if you can do it, I'm proud of you, and it's a good skill to have. And it's really attractive, I think, too. My understanding among women that I've talked to is that it is a very attractive skill. The ability to cook and handle that, it's attractive. I think if you can do it, good for you. But I don't think it's easy, and I certainly don't think it's something I'm going to pick up, especially when I'm not forced to, because I have enough money not to be at this level, but to be at a weird in-between. My goal is rather just to keep fucking farming on money, maybe one day get a private chef. And I know there's probably a level to it where I can get someone to prep a meal. Like, what if I could pay someone to come? Like, I buy the groceries. They come by for just an hour or two. They make meals that I can prep for a week. I think that's less expensive and probably within or close to where I'm at. Like, here's an example. I'm trying to get a little healthier. I'm trying to work out more. And the last time I worked out consistently, I had a trainer. This was like a year ago, maybe a year and a half. And I was going consistently, and I felt the biggest gains I had. But then my trainer told me, he said, look, for how much you're working out, you're gaining really slow. And it's because of your diet and your terrible sleep schedule. He told me that directly. And my response was to quit, by the way. I haven't even fucking been back. I didn't actually quit. I didn't quit for a while. But that's what he told me. He's like, you're working out a good amount, and you're coming consistently, and you're doing hard exercises. But you're like consistently tired, and you're consistently not eating right. And so I just know that's my biggest problem. I have to work on food and sleep. And I'm getting better with sleep, but my food is still terrible. The one I gave the Xbox to, yes, that's exactly right. That guy.
Sucks, but has good weather, and you're not sure if purchasing power parity means the gardeners are getting paid well by their standards, or if you just own slaves. With this in mind, if you are a billionaire, it's actually pretty hard to think of a way to flex on multi-millionaires, meaning the 23-year-olds on Raya who look like they're 35 aren't going to message you back. That is, of course, until you remember what separates the centimillionaires from the billionaires. Big boat. Ask a girl if she...
Okay, we've talked about this stuff. maybe this guy's watched this. I don't know. Maybe it's not. But anyway, we talked about this. This is the number one thing that separates billionaires from regular rich people is the ability to own a fucking yacht. That is like the reason they buy it, is to stand out. And then the size of the yacht matters. Jeff Bezos can afford a bigger yacht than a regular poor-ass billionaire because a yacht is so obscenely expensive and requires a full-time staff, and just the cost of fueling it is so expensive. The cost of fucking keeping it in the harbor so expensive. You have to pay out like a $250K harbor fee just to dock. It is just so disgustingly expensive that you have to, it's the ultimate flex.
She'd rather be stuck in the middle of a forest with a random bear or a random man, and she picks the bear every time. Ask a girl if she'd rather be stuck in the middle of the ocean with a random shark or stuck in the middle of the ocean with a random Saudi man, and she picks Muhammad every time. This is because men in the forest are broke, meaning they'll try to touch your boob, whereas men on yachts are rich, meaning they have grown weary of material desires and flew you out business class for your quirky personality. While no one has tried to sex traffic me yet, the closest I've been able to get so far was when I was on a holiday in France several years ago and made a day trip to Monaco. Now, for people not in the know, Monaco is a tiny sovereign nation basically inside France and is like a Vatican City tax haven for the ultra wealthy. They have a little garden you can look at near the Monte Carlo casino, which was the only
Speaking of rich creeps in France, can I tell a story? I think she wouldn't mind. I won't say who. Someone I know that you don't know, or maybe you know, but not a streamer, went to Cannes, which is like a marketing conference, advertising conference in France. And she got hit on by Jake Paul. Like Jake Paul walked up to her at Cannes and tried to, but like his opener was like, hey, want to have sex or something. It's like a professional environment. This is a real thing that happened. That's crazy. Isn't that fucking crazy? Isn't he married? I mean, this is like this is a little while back. Maybe he wasn't, but yeah, this happened. Oh, Stans told his story. I'm sorry. It was Logan Paul and it was Stans' wife, Rochelle. Okay, she's told the story. Great. Yeah, Stans' wife, Rochelle, was there for work and Logan Paul walked up and said, hey, you want to have sex? And she's like, no, I'm married, but it's just funny. It's just funny. It's really fucking funny. So get mogged by Stans, Logan Paul.
On a holiday in France several years ago and made a day trip to Monaco. Now, for people not in the know, Monaco is a tiny sovereign nation basically inside France and is like a Vatican City tax haven for the ultra wealthy. They have a little garden you can look at near the Monte Carlo casino, which was the only thing I could afford. And as you walk through, you're like, oh, look, a little building. Hopefully this one's a bathroom. Nope, just another Audemars Piguet watch kiosk. Then you pee on it anyway because you're in Europe. Other than this neat oceanographic museum, what I thought was the coolest part of Monaco was the port, which was divided into sections based on how important people in Monaco thought you were. In the very inner part of the harbor, you have the literal wage slave section, which is basically all the yachts that I would see back home. Then there's Worthless, which had the biggest yachts I have ever seen in real life prior to this. After that, you have Starter Yacht, which are like floating New York City penthouses. Then the last section in the harbor is, finally, a real yacht, which is one giant pier for the 2 or 3 mega yachts that rule the Monaco postcard photo and cost at least $100 million each.
That's awesome.
Obviously, you don't stop there because these things are a dime a dozen. So then you go out in the ocean and you get, what is this, a harbor for ants? Now you might be thinking what I was thinking at the time, which was, even if you were a billionaire, why on earth would you want a mega yacht so big you can't even park it in the harbor? Exactly, to store your other yachts in, broke, you get with the program. At this point, I too was wondering how I could acquire a Russian nesting yacht until I was like, speaking of, what's
yacht
that?
To store
Maybe a
yachts.
few kilometers farther out from the shore was this thing, which is the world's largest sailing yacht, and in the top 5 most expensive yachts ever built. It's owned by Andrei Melnichenko and designed by the guy who made this cool lemon squeezer that my mom just bought. Even though I had forgotten the oligarch-class yacht existed, this guy claims he doesn't even have ties to the Russian state, making him just a regular, unimportant billionaire. This argument, of course, didn't work on the Italian government after Russia invaded Ukraine, because they saw the yacht parked outside their shoreline and said, yoink. Which brings us to the true top of the hierarchy, which isn't who owns the biggest yacht, it's who owns the biggest ocean. And you know what that means. That's right, baby, the taxpayer wins again. Checkmate, billionaires, me and the boys have once again risen to the top. Now, if you're looking to... Oh, oops, wrong slide. If you're looking to avoid calls from the IRS or other scammers that manage to...
As if we pay for our fucking aircraft carriers with tax money. We pay for them with good old-fashioned debt, okay? We just borrow. I yoink, 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 bye, bye, bye. Easy, we claw to that shit. You think we can afford the shit we pay for with tax money? We put that shit on fucking Afterpay. And we tell China and Japan we're good for it and we'll pay it back later. And pensions and US pensions. I do want to say, like, it's one of my core, as I mentioned, I'm in favor of like really high taxes on billionaires. And most importantly, my number one thing is estate tax. Because again, inherited billionaires are the worst. They didn't even make anything. They didn't even take any risk. They were just born to it. I've always been for high inheritance tax. I always will be. I fully believe it. But it is one of my core beliefs that, like, if it was not so restrictive to set up competition to them, they would lose their money just through being outcompeted. I think we should tax them more, but I think more important than that even is removing all of the restrictions and things that are used to gum up the works so you can't make a competitive product. I find that to be very frustrating. Guy who thinks free markets have no billionaires. What I think is, in a truly free market, your margin is my opportunity. So if you're making fucking 80% margin on something, I can come by and compete that down to 79 and someone does 78, 77. So what I think is, the freer the market, the fewer billionaires you will see. Yeah, that's correct. Because they will get beaten out by someone who's willing to do their thing for less. But, you know, it's always a sliding scale. Nothing is truly free. Nothing's truly fucking slammed down. And I think, what I'm saying is, if we're going to tax them really high, one of the best uses of that is making it easier to compete with them. That's the God's honest truth. It's making it easier. Like, here, let me give you a great example. Let me give something that people can fully understand. Like an unintended side effect. If you started a small business and you want to set up health insurance for your employees, it's fucking difficult. It's hard. It's confusing. It requires a fucking team. It requires lawyers. It's annoying and difficult. But because that's the only way to get health care in America, you not being able to do it puts you at a huge disadvantage from a big company. So as a small company, I can't offer the same health insurance to my employees as a big one. And it's not because I'm not making a product or making money. It's because it's a fucking hassle. You need a big team. If you were to do something like make it much simpler, like if the government handled health insurance, or if it was just a system where you didn't have to get it through your work, it would automatically allow tons more startups to exist that compete with big companies. That alone would allow a lot of people to start things. There's many people that are afraid to do their startup because they don't want to lose health insurance. I know people that work at companies like Nvidia or Amazon that would love to start their own company. Like, create a company, private market, own a company, make an idea, but they can't do it because they can't get off health insurance. They're in their 30s or 40s and it's too scary, too risky. So I just want to explain, like, these systems around the game of markets can be optimized to make it so it's just about making the better product. And if that's the case, I actually think most wealthy people or richer companies would lose, or they would get competed down. I think most of their advantage comes from the non-product stuff. I don't think they're inherently so much better at making a better product. That's my personal belief.